What is up, guys? Hurricane Liz here, and I know you guys have been waiting for this video. I finally got to it. I finally break down all my Fiverr purchases for Kindle and show you guys the good, the bad, and the ugly in Kindle creators, and I think you're going to be shocked. I'm going to tell you guys the whole truth and nothing but the truth in terms of how I did using Fiverr for Kindle, and I think you're going to be excited. So I'm going to save you a bunch of money. I'm going to show you the best of the best, and again, I blew all this money just to make you guys sappy, so I think you're going to be fired up. So let's go ahead and jump straight in. All right, guys, so we're here on my screen share, and I'm about to share with you my experience on Fiverr. So I'm going to go over not only the good, the bad, the ugly, but also the mistakes I made, who I would use again, who I would not use again, and who I would use if I had a big budget and or a small budget. So let's go ahead and jump in and talk about the first guy. This guy's name is Ahmed Beck, and I will say I used him for a total of 30 pages, create maze pages for kids. It's all sorts of stuff that's included in this package. And here is what came out of this guy. All right, so we got 10 coloring, 10 dot to dot, and 10 mazes. Let's look at each of them just so you guys can see kind of the quality of the work that I was dealing with. And then I'll talk about more along the lines of why I reached out to this guy, how I found him, and so forth. Now, I did ask him for a horses and unicorn theme, and I was planning to model this after the #1 selling unicorn book on Amazon. And you'll notice that he did a mix of horses and unicorns. And in general, they're very generic, and or they look like they were pretty much ripped from a vector site, right? But what do you expect? These things were not that expensive. I will say this much about the guy. When I first got this stuff, I was over the moon that he was able to do this so quickly, and he was able to put together all this stuff in a very short period of time, and he just got it together. It looked fantastic, but upon further investigating and looking more into the niche, I noticed, it's just too generic. It's got horses, it's got unicorns, and I really didn't know what I was doing at this point. I just wanted to put together some kind of book. So altogether, he does very generic work, and there's no telling whether or not he's sending me the same stuff versus what he's sending you. So if you're looking for somebody cheap and your actual budget isn't that big, I do recommend him because he's very professional and he just gets shit done fast. But if you're looking for something that's very original, then I don't recommend it at all. I recommend that you keep looking. Now, I will say this much. The way that I approached using Fiverr is very different from most people. When you go to Fiverr and you look for particular services, like if I'm looking for a Kindle book cover, what I basically did is I went over to Fiverr and I searched not by relevance, which most people should do, and just understand this, when you sort by relevance, you're probably gonna get higher priced gigs, but they're also gonna be more quality. And so what I did is I sorted by newest arrivals. So you might be wondering, why did you do this? Most of these people have no reviews. Well, the way that I look at it, these are people that are looking to get thrown a bone, and they just want a chance, right? They have 0 reviews on Fiverr in most cases, so they're extremely cheap and very affordable, but the chance are they could be extremely talented, just no feedback. Now think about when you first started on a site somewhere, you had 0 feedback, but you knew you could do it and you knew you were good at it, nobody would give you a shot. This is those people, and that's why I chose them. So again, you're dealing with 2 different types of people. Now, the way that I sort them out is an entirely different story, so I'm not gonna go into that in this video. Instead, I'm gonna show you who I worked with and what I liked about them. So let's go to the next guy, which is this guy. This guy's name is LMF21, and I basically asked him, he is a doodler. And no, I'm not making this up. He is a doodler, and what he basically does is he doodles any theme that you give him. So I gave him 10 different themes, and we started with 5, and he charged me about $10 per theme. So it's a little bit pricier, but it is all original art, and you can tell he's an excellent doodler. So I used him for 10 different things. I was impressed with his first 5. I continued to use him for more, and this theme was staying at home during coronavirus. So he did an excellent job with that. Moving forward, I did hire him for 5 more, so I'll show you the rest of those. All in all, like I said, he's going to be a little bit pricier, but he follows directions. He's great, but he does take a long time. So if you need really quality work, I do recommend him. I could also recommend him for a cover. He could create a doodle cover, and then I'll show you later on a coloring person that I found that is fantastic that you could layer on top of that doodle, and now you've got yourself a cover. So let's go to the next person, which is this guy. Now this guy I hate to say this, but this guy really sucked. I asked him to doodle a coronavirus cover, and here's what he came up with. He did it by hand, so it is original artwork, and his name is something like Farts1621. So if you ask me, never deal with a guy named Farts. That's the rule that I learned after this actual book was put together. But here was his actual drawing that he came up with, and if we look down here, his next drawing was a little better, But still, all in all, I'm not entirely happy with it. And all it says in the front is coronavirus. And perhaps that's a little bit my fault because I didn't give him enough instructions. And that's one thing that I did found. Make sure you give very, very good instructions, because if not, you're going to be going back and forth and they might fudge up just like this guy did and farts all over your page, right? So unfortunately, like, it didn't come out too great, but here was the final product and it was $30 some. And I guess maybe I'm just being a little bit picky, but I kind of really didn't like it too much. But all in all, he was very easy to work with and he was very eager. He kept messaging me and asking me for more work. And I just declined it because I wasn't happy with his first set of work anyways. So, all right, this next guy, Ola Benz, he was freaking awesome. And I will say this much. Let me explain to you what I'm doing on this particular project, and then you guys will understand more or less. He charged me $30 for these 1, 2, 3, 4 drawings. So an average is $7 per drawing. You might think like, Liz, why would you want a little tiny little shit drawing like that to put inside of your book? Well, here is what I was gonna do with this. You'll notice that each of these drawings have like just some little tiny detail on them. Take this toilet paper, for instance. On this toilet paper, you're gonna notice in a second that right underneath his eye, he's got like a little dimple. I can very easily remove one of these little dimples and then put 5 or 25 of these on a page and then say which one is different and remove that one dimple on just one. And now I've got a game that you can play with people that are looking at your book of which one is different. So now I've got these 4 doodles that I can use in 4 different activity pages, all totaling out about $7. So this guy was freaking awesome. I used him again. He was quick. He was awesome, and I will use them over and over, especially for these little doodles, which I think do great in kawaii books as well as the chibi books. And he's fantastic at it. That's what he specializes in, kawaii art doodle. All right, so this next guy, I will say this much about this guy. This guy is very talented. I don't know, I don't believe that he's really just tracing. I think he does do some tracing, but he also adds some of his own original elements. So I hired him to trace a t-shirt design that I like to see if he could play with it and make it a little bit more original to put on a cover of a coronavirus book. What he came back with, it was almost identical. However, he did put his own original twist on it, but I just don't think those twists were enough to be able to pass as my own original content. So I decided to go against it. But if you're going to use this guy, be very specific about the changes that you want made and make sure that those changes are very drastic, because if not, you're going to end up with an identical one to the original, which is actually pretty awesome if you take a look at it, but it's not going to pass if I try to actually use this as my own art. So again, all in all, didn't work out with this guy, but he's a tremendous worker. He kept emailing and messaging me for actual work. So I know he wants it and I know he's willing to do the work. So fantastic on the delivery and everything else. Now, this next person here is this Salma Gull. And once again, I asked her for unicorn pages just to see how she did. I did a test order for 5 pages at a price of $14, which totals out to about I can't even do the math, $3 per page. And here's what she came back with. I thought she did a pretty solid job. And in general, she was a heck of a lot more original than Ahmed Bach. So I would use her again and again. Just make sure that you tell her very specifically what you want and what age groups. Now, I did like the fact that she asked me about the age and more details about the actual puzzles. But again, like I said, make sure that you have enough information for her to be able to move forward, because she still made a couple mistakes. So I had to actually like fix those and tell her what to fix. So she was excellent at $5 for 5 pages. So she was actually like $1 per page. So it's well worth it with her. Now, this next one is for a higher budget and she did a tremendous job, but I will say this much about her. She did take her time on it. So if you want a faster job, you might not want to use her. And again, she's a lot more expensive. She did 30 total pages for me and she did a tremendous job. She put a lot of time, effort, and energy into it. And I could see that a lot of them are very original. So I cannot show you what those pages look like because I actually use them in one of my books that does sell well. But just take my word for it and take my word that she is expensive. So don't use her unless you plan on spending a lot of money. Like this one right here, I spent $210 with her. Now, here is again Ola Benz, and you can see that he did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I got charged $39. And then he also gave me the AI original file so I can go in there and quickly take out one little element for each guy. And then again, making 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different little guys or 6 different activity pages, all for the price of $39. Again, this could be pricey for some of you guys, but I just thought I'd go with it. And again, you can also download vectors from vector sites and take one little element off, make it original, and then slap it up there and do that kind of activity page where you've got 25 little guys and one is different. It's kind of like a Where is Waldo? Which toilet paper has poop a poop stain on him. It's that simple. All right, so this next lady, all we did here on the next few are buy some templated stuff from a vault. Now, let me kind of explain that for most of you guys. This is 250 coloring book pages that I can use in my own work, and I have private label rights to just to use on Kindle and in my own work. It means I cannot resell it on Etsy, I cannot resell it on Fiverr, but I can shove it in a book and use it as my own work. And it worked out really well, especially since the first time that I submitted the order with her, she sent me the wrong link. So I ended up getting 2 books for the price of 1, which you see I paid $27. So I got a $54 value. Same thing with this guy. He created 20 animal color by numbers pages, all pretty good, all very nice. And you can look him up, is Marcadonius, and he was $27. So I thought I'd try a couple of those just to show you guys how they did. Here is one of the last ones that I highly recommend. This guy is Colored J, and he did a tremendous job. He colored an actual page that I had and made it my primary page for my actual book, and he's an excellent coloring artist. He did it all very easy, very well, and he enjoyed it. He did it fast. So I recommend him at $14 to color a page. It was a value for me because I used it as a cover, and it was probably the best cover that I've ever had, primarily because the art was done by a very great artist, and he just colored it in. So I do recommend this guy. Now this guy is, I think, the last one we have here, and he's the guy that I do not recommend. He was $17, and I asked him to create a cover, and here's what he came back with. Now, you can see, I thought he was extremely talented because I saw this picture as his main image, and I thought, wow, this is some good-ass art, and it's very funny, it's very creative. I like the little unicorn, I like all the page, it looks very funny, and let's face it, look at the writer, he looks funny AF, right? And so I was like, wow, this is a pretty cool piece of art. I can only hope that he can do half as good on my actual page. And guess what? This was a cover. He didn't do that great a job. It was very meh. So I would not use him again. And since then, his actual score has gone down. And as a result, I think that one of the biggest proponents to selling more books on Kindle is actually having a fantastic cover and paying more money than you have to. So I would never pay $15 again for a cover. I would probably go up to $50 and pay less for the pages inside, because I think the cover is what drives a click-through and then a decision to make a purchase, because people really never see the pages inside until they go into the actual book. And I think they're gonna buy it almost always for the cover. So I highly recommend you pay more than this, and I do not recommend this guy because everything that I told him to do, he did the complete opposite. And by the time he did it, I was just so fed up with it. I was like, man, F this. I just want to pay for this shit and be done with it and then move on to the next book and end up finding another artist. So this was the last guy I used since. I have not used anybody since that, but I thought that I would just show you guys just some of the examples and some of the people that I work with, the good, the bad, and the ugly, as well as the affordable and the actual non-affordable, and all the different mistakes that I made and I would do differently moving forward. So biggest and most important lesson that I learned is be as detailed as possible with the instructions that you give the people that create these, because they're going to need those details in order to do a tremendous job. So that's it for this video. Again, as usual, ask your questions and comments below. I always personally answer them, and I'll see you guys on the next video.